The call came on a quiet Tuesday morning, cutting through my usual routine of coffee and emails. When I saw Rebecca's name flash across my screen, a familiar tension settled in my chest. Conversations with her were never pleasant. I exhaled slowly and answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Hello, Rebecca. I've sold the house," she announced without preamble, her tone thick with satisfaction. "The papers are signed. The new owners move in next week. I hope you've learned your lesson about respecting your elders." My grip on the coffee mug tightened. The house she was so smugly referring to was my childhood home, the one my father had left me when he passed away 2 years ago. Or at least, that's what Rebecca thought. "The house?" I repeated, forcing amusement from my voice. "You mean Dad's house?" "Don't play dumb, Olivia," she snapped. "You know exactly which house, the one you've been squatting in rent-free since your father died. Well, that ends now. I found buyers who actually appreciate the property." I took a slow sip of coffee, letting her words settle. She had no idea about my meeting with Dad's lawyer, Mr. Harrison, just days after the funeral. No idea about the documents we'd signed. No idea that the house wasn't hers to sell. "That's interesting," I said, keeping my tone light. "And you're sure everything's legal?" She scoffed. "Of course it's legal. I was his wife. The house was in his name. You may have been his precious daughter, but I have rights too." Ah, there it was, the real reason behind her power play. 3 months ago, I had stopped Rebecca from tearing apart the home my father had lovingly restored. She wanted to gut the historic details, the hand-carved banisters, the original hardwood floors, the stained glass windows that had taken years to refurbish. She had called it an outdated eyesore. I called it a piece of my father. "I see," I said mildly. "Well, I hope you got a good price for it." "Don't worry about the price," she snapped. "Just make sure you're out by Friday. The new owners are eager to start renovations." I could almost hear the smirk in her voice, picturing me scrambling to pack up my things. If only she knew. "Thanks for letting me know," I said, then ended the call. A slow smile spread across my face as I set down my coffee. Rebecca had always underestimated me, just as she had underestimated my father's foresight. I picked up my phone and dialed Mr. Harrison. "Olivia," he greeted warmly, "I was expecting your call." "She did it," I said. "She actually tried to sell the house." There was a beat of silence, then a soft chuckle. "Did she now? Well, this should be interesting. Would you like me to set things in motion?" "Please," I said, "and make sure the buyers understand exactly what's happening. I don't want them caught in Rebecca's mess." After hanging up, I wandered through the house, my house, trailing my fingers along the walls my father had painted, the door frames he had restored, the window seats where we'd spent countless afternoons reading together. Every inch of this place held his memory, his presence. Rebecca had married my father 5 years ago, when I was 23. At first, she played the role of the doting stepmother, sweet smiles, warm words, but it didn't take long for her mask to slip. She resented my bond with Dad, resented that he included me in decisions about the house, and when his health began to fail, she saw an opportunity. But my father had seen through her. One evening, 2 weeks before he passed, he called me into his study while Rebecca was out. "Livy," he said, using my childhood nickname, "I need you to trust me. Things aren't what they seem with Rebecca, and I've made arrangements. When the time comes, see James Harrison, he'll explain everything." I had wanted to ask more, but he'd been so weak, so tired. Now, I understood exactly what he had meant. My phone buzzed, a message from Rebecca. "I expect the keys on my desk by Thursday. Don't make this difficult, Olivia." I smiled as I typed back. "Don't worry, Rebecca, everything will work out exactly as it should." No response. She thought she had won. She had no idea the real show was about to begin. I spent the rest of the morning sorting through old photos in Dad's study. One caught my eye, me and Dad, covered in paint and sawdust, grinning as we fixed the house together. Another showed him tending to his rose garden, the one Rebecca had wanted to rip out last spring. I had stopped her then. Just as I was about to stop her now. My phone rang again. "Mr. Harrison? The wheels are in motion," he said. "The buyer's lawyer has been notified. They're furious with Rebecca, but grateful they found out before money changed hands." "How long until she finds out?" "I'd say by this afternoon," he mused. "Their lawyer is drafting a strongly worded letter as we speak. Would you like me to be present?" I smiled. "Oh, absolutely." When she received it, I let the moment stretch, considering my next move. No. Let her face this alone. She needed to understand exactly what she had done. As you wish, Mr. Harrison said, his voice laced with quiet warning. But be prepared for the fallout. People like Rebecca don't take humiliation well. He was right. Rebecca had always been proud, always desperate for control. Realizing she had made a fool of herself, trying to sell a house she never truly owned, would hit her hard. But that was the point. The fallout came faster than expected. By 3 p.m., my phone erupted with notifications, missed calls, one after another, followed by a string of increasingly furious texts from Rebecca. "What have you done?" The last message was in all caps, her rage seeping through the screen. I was in the garden, seated among my father's roses, when I heard the screech of tires in the driveway. Moments later, Rebecca stormed out of her Mercedes, a crumpled letter clutched in her fist. "You conniving little witch," she shrieked, her carefully maintained facade shattering before my eyes. "You knew about this all along." I stayed seated, calm, despite the storm brewing before me. "Knew about what, Rebecca? Don't play innocent." She shoved the letter in my face, her hands trembling. "The trust. The property transfer. All of it. You and James plotted this behind my back." "No," I corrected gently, standing and brushing the dirt from my jeans. "Dad and Mr. Harrison arranged it. I just followed his instructions." Her face contorted with disbelief, then fury. "Your father would never do this to me. This has to be a mistake." "Actually," I said, tilting my head, "he did exactly this, to protect me and the house. He saw through you, Rebecca. He knew exactly what you'd try to do once he was gone." She took a half step back, her designer heels sinking slightly into the soft garden soil. "That's impossible," she whispered. "He trusted me. He loved me. Did he?" I asked quietly. "Or did he just let you think he did?" The color drained from her face as my words sank in. My father, the man she had believed she had fooled, had outmaneuvered her from beyond the grave. "The house was never solely in his name," I continued. "He transferred it to a trust years before he even met you. I'm the sole beneficiary. You had no right to sell it. You're lying." But there was doubt in her voice now, uncertainty creeping in. "Check the property records," I said simply. "They're public." Dad made sure of that too. He wanted everything to be crystal clear when the time was right. Rebecca's hands clenched around the letter, crushing it further. "The buyers." Her voice wavered. "They're threatening legal action. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" I let out a soft, mirthless laugh. "Almost as humiliating as trying to throw your stepdaughter out of her own house? Or maybe as humiliating as spending years pretending to love someone just to get to their money?" She flinched, as if I had struck her. "You don't understand anything about my relationship with your father. I understand more than you think." I met her gaze, unwavering. "Dad told me everything before he died. About the prenup you refused to sign. The withdrawals from his accounts. The men you met with while he was in the hospital." Her eyes widened in shock. "He knew," I said simply. "He knew everything. He just waited, watched, and planned. Like father, like daughter, I suppose." For the first time, Rebecca looked lost. Her designer suit, her perfectly composed image, it all seemed to unravel as she took another step back, her shoes now stained with garden dirt. "This isn't over," she whispered, but the fight in her voice was gone. "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "it is. I recorded this conversation. Want me to add it to Mr. Harrison's file? I'm sure the authorities would love to hear about your attempt to illegally sell property you never owned." She stared at the phone as if it were a loaded gun. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. "It would damage your precious father's reputation." I smiled, calm and unwavering. "His reputation can handle the truth. Can yours?" A long silence stretched between us. Then, finally, her shoulders slumped. "Fine." She spat. "Keep the house, keep your little victory, but don't think this means you've won." "I already have," I said, my voice steady. "I won the moment Dad saw you for who you really are." She turned and stormed back to her car, her heels sinking into the grass with every angry step. As her Mercedes sped away, I noticed she had dropped the lawyer's letter in the garden. I picked it up, smoothing out the crumpled paper. The legal jargon was dense, but the message was clear. Rebecca had no claim to the house. She had never had any claim. Her attempt to sell it was fraud. My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Harrison. How did she take it? About as well as expected, I replied, but I think she's done. Your father would be proud, he wrote back. He always said you were stronger than anyone knew. I looked around the garden at the roses Dad had tended so carefully, at the house he had protected so thoroughly. He had known this day would come. He had prepared for it in ways I was only beginning to understand. Rebecca had thought she was teaching me a lesson about respect. Instead, she had learned one about underestimating people. Both the living and the dead. The letter. The weeks after Rebecca's confrontation brought unexpected changes. The house felt lighter somehow, as if a shadow had been lifted. I spent my evenings restoring the rooms to their original state, undoing Rebecca's hasty attempts at modernizing. One evening, while sorting through boxes in Dad's study, I found a letter addressed to me in his familiar handwriting. The envelope was dated just days before his death. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Livy. If you're reading this, then everything has played out as I expected. Rebecca has probably tried to take the house by now, and you've learned of the trust arrangements I made with James. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything while I was alive. Rebecca was watching too closely, and I needed her to believe she had won. You see, I discovered her true nature about a year into our marriage, but by then, she had already shown her hand. The mysterious illness that landed me in the hospital? Not so mysterious after all. I had James investigate the occasional dizzy spells, the confusion, the gradual weakening. Rebecca had been adding something to my evening tea, not enough to kill me quickly, but enough to make it look like a natural decline. I played along, let her think she was succeeding. Meanwhile, I made arrangements to protect you and everything we built together. This house isn't just a building, Livy, it's our legacy, every repair and restoration, a memory we shared. I know it must have hurt, watching me seem to choose her over you those last few months. Please forgive me for that deception. I needed her to believe she had complete control so she wouldn't suspect what was coming. There's more you need to know. Check behind the loose brick in the study fireplace. I left something there for you. Remember, strength isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes it's about patience, about waiting for the right moment to act. I love you, my darling girl. Dad. I sat there, tears falling onto the letter. Everything made sense now. His distant behavior in those final months, the cryptic conversations, the way he had insisted on tea alone with Rebecca every evening. I walked over to the fireplace, easily finding the loose brick. Behind it was a small USB drive and another note. Show this to the police when you're ready. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The files contained damning evidence, hidden camera footage of Rebecca adding something to Dad's tea, secret meetings with men, and phone calls plotting her next steps after his death. He had documented everything. Shaking, I called Mr. Harrison. James, I said when he answered, I found Dad's letter, and the drive. He was quiet for a moment. Are you ready to take the next step? I hesitated. The evidence was airtight: attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy. Rebecca wasn't just going to lose her social standing, she was facing serious criminal charges. Not yet, I decided. Let's keep it as insurance for now. Knowing we have it is enough. Your father said you'd say that, he replied, his voice warm with approval. He always said you had his sense of strategy. The final move. The next morning, a large envelope arrived from Rebecca's lawyer. Inside was a formal document relinquishing any claims to the house or my father's estate, accompanied by a brief note. You win, Olivia. I'm leaving the state. Don't worry about hearing from me again. Just keep what you know to yourself. She'd found the cameras. Of course, she had. She'd likely been searching the house for anything incriminating after our confrontation. The evidence on the drive was merely backup. The threat of its existence was enough to force her hand. I stood in Dad's study, surrounded by the life we'd built together, and felt a deep sense of peace. He had protected me one last time. He had taught me one final lesson about patience and strategy. The house remained as he wanted it, preserved, cherished, a testament to our bond. Rebecca's attempt to steal it had failed, just as her attempts to come between us had ultimately failed. In the garden, Dad's roses bloomed more beautifully than ever. I tended them carefully, honoring his memory in every flower that opened. Sometimes, while working among them, I could almost hear his voice. Remember, Livy, the strongest roots grow in silence, hidden from view, until the right moment to bloom. He had been right, of course. Strength wasn't always about confrontation. Sometimes, it was about waiting, watching, letting people reveal their true nature. Rebecca had taught me about deception, the masks people wear. But Dad had taught me something far more valuable. How to see through those masks. How to protect what matters most. And how to win, without losing yourself in the process. The house stands as it always has, a monument to love, patience, and justice served quietly but completely. And somewhere, I like to think, Dad is smiling, knowing that his final lesson was well learned. As for the USB drive, it remains behind that loose brick. A silent guardian, ensuring that some stories stay buried. At least for now. After all, as Dad always said, timing is everything.